Hi. Today I have the great pleasure to welcome Tommy Folkesson to the program. Nice to have you here.
Yeah.
Tommy is a classic Swedish amp guy who has modded and improved amps for lots of great artists. Europe, Helicopters, Hammerfall, and Frank Marino, for instance. And I, a couple of maybe a month ago, I tried the Mark 7, and it just blew me away.
Thank you. We have the same kind of ears.
Yeah.
You
should probably have the mic. Sorry.
Okay.
So now it's. So once again, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Can you tell me a bit about how you started out? I know you've been famous here in Sweden since the early 80s.
Yeah, I started 1980 with the first mod. I started working at Hagström music shops in 77 when I was 21. So then I started to learn the technique about repairs and I tried out some different amps and by then I was playing in a band, a local band. We had 20 gigs a year around at clubs and discos and so on. So, but I have never played the guitar. I played the Hammond organ and the Fender Rhodes.
Cool.
Because I started with piano lessons when I was 6 years old. So, but I was always more interested in the guitar part and the guitar sound and everything. Because I heard Richie Blackmore in 1973, I think, when I was 16. And that was really a shock for me. So how it could sound like that and how he could play like that and how the band could have this groove and everything was a shock for me when I heard them from Made in Japan. So we had two guitarists in this band, and they were both playing Marshall Super Leads, and it was a great sound, but too loud. So we couldn't hear the singer, and the drums was not so good either. We had this singing columns. We didn't have a PA system at that time in '73.
No.
So the singer, we couldn't hear the singer because the amps were too loud. It started with the problem that I had to solve. So we started with playing the guitar through an old tape machine, because you have all these good filters in these old Tandberg tape machines or in any tape machine. So we could get a good distortion from the tape machine and then into the Marshall. But that was just what we tried in a rehearsal. We didn't use it live.
No?
No.
Was it inspired by Richie? I think he used an AIVA or something like that.
He used an
AIVA, I think it was called.
Right. Tape recorder for the echo.
Yeah.
Also.
Oh, okay. So that was not for distortion.
Oh, it was part of the sound, I think, too. Yeah. But we didn't know that by then. So live we used this MXR Distortion Plus, the green one.
Yeah.
For when we just had to play low volumes, so we used that one. But that was not a good sound, so not for playing hard rock of that kind. We played the Purple songs and the Uriah Heep and some own stuff. But it was a very good sound from the Marshalls when playing a ton. But so I started to think, how can we get this sound at a lower volume? That was the start of it.
Yeah.
And that was in 77, 78, when I started to experiment with distortion boxes, when I had my first job as a repairman at Hagström Music. So I built a distortion box out of I modified an Italian fuzz box. I don't remember the brand, but that was the start. And I had some good ideas from a guy very good guitarist called Kjell-Åke Norén. He's living here in Gothenburg. He's a very good piano player, very good guitarist, and he had also some electronic knowledge. So he modified his Big Muff fuzz box, and he put a color sound wah in front of it to filter the sound into the fuzz box, and then he put some filters on later on, and then he had a pretty for that time a very good high gain sound from his. He had very cheap equipment. The rest of it, the amp was very cheap and the guitar was very, very cheap, but he had a good sound.
So he used the brightest position on the
wah? No, about the brightest, somewhere in the middle of the bright.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that takes all the bass part away. So you have a high pass filter of some kind, and so he had a much tighter bass than you have in an original Big Muff. So he really had a good sound, and I asked him how he did it, and he told me, you have to filter off the bass in front of the pedal, and then you level up the bass after, so you get the sound back, and then put it into the amp. Try that, he told me. So that's what I did. I put an MXR EQ box in front and an MXR EQ box after this Big Muff fuzz box, and it started to sound something like
interesting.
But very noisy. So and then so in '78 I started off building this distortion box for the guitarists in my band. And we had a much better sound. We really had, because at that time there were no good overdrive, like tube sound overdrive boxes on the market.
No,
we couldn't find them, and but the sound was much better. And I built it in my kitchen.
All right.
On the table, and I painted in my basement. And I did about several hundreds of them. Sold them to studios in Stockholm, and because there was nothing at that time that sounded like an overdrive tube preamp. Tube amp.
So it was based on this EQ and the Big Muff.
Inspired by. Right. But I had this Italian distortion box from the start, and then I put some extra stage on and some filters, and I did it inside the box, all of it.
Is it Sola, or is that what the company is called? The Italian company, Sola Sound or something like that?
I don't remember.
We'll edit that in later. This pedal is of course not the Raptor, that's the new one, but this one was called Raw.
It was. You mean I had the middle?
What was it called, this one?
No, it didn't have any name.
No, still don't.
No. But then I built the. I don't remember. I built this in the 80s. I made it smaller and with operational amplifiers. So I could have the same sound in a smaller pedal, like a standard box, like a standard MXR size. So, and that was called the fat disc box. It was black with green fat disc sign on. And I built like 600-700 of them at that time. And then in 1980 I did my first tube amp mod. And that was a friend of mine just coming to my workshop and putting an AC50 on my bench, and he said, just make it sound and something like anything you can improvise, just do something to it. And I did. So I have to thank Ulf, my friend, for that. And I did a cathode No, cascade, coupling the first input stages in a cascade. So there was just one input on the Vox,
Yeah.
and one gain and one master, and two setup of tone controls also working.
So it's kind of like
one before and one after the distortion circuit.
So it's kind of like the Marshall master volume, but with the Vox tone instead.
Yeah, something like that.
2204.
With filters before distortion stage and after distortion stage. So
Cool.
and that one had a very good sound, very good rock sound. I was surprised, and I started to wonder what's happening here.
Yeah.
and I put my signal generator and my oscilloscope and tried to check every stage and what is happening here, and so on. But I didn't know by that time that it was the output stage that made the sound. So very much the output stage colored the sound. So it was just a standard preamp distortion circuit and a very good output stage.
Yeah.
I didn't change the output stage, but it has such a good color in itself originally.
Yeah, indeed. So does it still have that amp?
No, I don't know where it is.
Oh.
So yeah, and then I did the second one was 1980. I did a Vibrolux. I have destroyed so many amps.
That's a philosophical question, I think.
Some guys think I should hang in a closest tree.
They know they're wrong.
Yeah, but I did a really slaughter to that one because because I put a saw. There are two inputs: input normal and input vibrato. I think on the Vibrolux. Yeah. So I put a saw in the middle of these two, and because he wanted a kind of Mesa Boogie 112 cabinet.
Yeah.
With a 112 speaker instead, so I had to put that part in the back, half the preamp in the back, see? And then you could see from the vibrato input all the way, you could see that on front, like a Mesa, and this special speaker cloth, on like Mesa. It looked like a Mesa, but it was a Fender Vibrolux.
Okay, do you have some picture of that?
No.
You destroyed the evidence.
Yeah. Best to do that.
Yeah.
And after that I did some mods to friends and to people who have heard about this around the area. And in 1985 I met one of the session guitarists from Stockholm, Micke Nord Andersson, played with some artists, famous artists around the country and on studio recordings and so on. And he was in the shop and he tried one Super Reverb, Fender Super Reverb that I modded, and that's what he ordered. So I built one for him, a 2-channel, one clean, like Rockman clean, line clean sound at that time.
Yeah.
It was the most popular. Very, very crispy and the distortion sound. And and then he took his amp to Stockholm and played some sessions. And other guitarists called me. They liked it and they wanted the same thing or something similar, like Lasse Welander, another famous Swedish session guitarist, and Kino Mariano, Lasse Jonsson with Anders Berglöfs band, and some others, some Stockholm, the Stockholm Mafia.
Yeah.
They all wanted some modified amp.
Yeah.
By that time, I've heard about Paul Rivera, who had modified for Steve Lukather, for example, and that the American guitarists from the West Coast used modified amps. So I had an idea that maybe I could make a living out of this. So that's what I wanted, and it started off in '85 in Stockholm then. And then, yeah, it just went on and on and on and on. I modified for the whole country of Sweden and sent amps everywhere. And I tried to develop more channels in 87, 88. 87 I did 3-channel mod. In 88 I did a 4-channel mod. And it was, by then, Key Marcel called me. Key Marcel in Europe.
Yeah.
And he had just started with Europe, and they were about to make their second album, Out of This World, it was called.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted a special sound, a personal sound. So he came to my workshop, and he asked for maybe something like Brian May or so, he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I showed him a little what I could do with filters and so on. I was thinking of this kind of, wow, in middle position sound, like a whoa,
Yeah.
like little Brian May sound sometimes.
Yeah.
So I showed it to him, and he said, "Yeah, okay, let's go." I started to modify 2 Marshall amps, 100 watters, and a slave amp because he played in stereo.
Mm-hmm.
And got them. I sent them to London because they had a rehearsal studio there. They made just before the recording of Out of This World, which they made in London.
Mm-hmm.
So he got his amps and played for a couple of weeks, and then he called me. Was a bit angry because something had broken down, and he didn't like that because that affected the rehearsal time, and it was very expensive in the studio, and you know. So I just what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I ordered a flight ticket the next day to London, and took my tools.
Yeah,
with me.
doctor's bag.
Yeah, and some parts. And I was thinking, what can I have happened, and what's this about? So, yeah, I came there, and they wouldn't let me in because I said, they asked me in the customs, what are you going to do here in London? I said, I'm going to work. No, you have no work permission. So, but eventually. Okay. I got inside. So, yeah. And I spent some time with Europe, and was in their rehearsal studio listening to the songs, and I was very impressed by the playing, by the songs and everything. I was very impressed. And I in the evenings when when the room was empty, I did my repairs and started to get the amps in order so he could play, and he used them on the recording of Out of This World then. And that's the famous key sound, which the famous flute sound, which he had mainly on the solos with this mid-boost effect on.
It's a beautiful tone.
Sorry?
It's a beautiful tone.
Yeah, it's a special tone anyway. So that's when it started off. Then he had some problems on tour because he used them on the world tour later on, and there was something going on. But tube amps, they crash sometimes. So nothing special, but. That's what some people who are very fond of this sound and fond of Keys playing. He was a very good musician at that time, and he's still. And his feel for melodies and his technique was astounding. So they ask for his sound still after nearly 40 years. No, 30 years. They ask for his sound. So I've made the same amp for some people.
Which mod? What do you call that mod? Is it?
No, the key mod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that relate to your Eternal Classic mod?
It's not the same distortion circuit. It's only this key mod that has this mid boost filter on the solo channel.
Yeah.
It's a 4-channel amp, but on the solo channel there's this mid boost, pre-shaped mid boost filter on. So it's special on the back side. You can see the mid boost controls, but it has a slightly softer dynamics than I built today.
Yeah.
So, but it's a good sound. I still think it's a good sound.
Yeah, indeed.
Mm. Yeah, and what happened then? I did mods for Dregen in helicopters, Backyard Babies. He's also a well-known guitarist, and he wanted just a plain one-channel rock sound from his Fender Bassman, an old Fender Blackface. No, it was a Chrome Face. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and then it was Segeborn in helicopters as well, and some other people. Frank Marino from Canada. He's was called the Hendrix clone or something like that at that time in the 70s, and he called me because he had tried one of mine in Sweden Rock Festival.
Mm.
His amp broke down, so he just borrowed a modified Marshall that I had done, and he liked it so much, so he ordered 2 more.
Cool. So what was your amp at Sweden Rock? Was it some of the other bands that played that, or?
No, I think he went to a music shop in Sölvesborg,
Okay.
close town to Sweden Rock, and he just, there was an amp, and he tried it, and
It's a beautiful coincidence.
yeah. He's a very nice person, and he builds his own preamps, and he has a good knowledge of electronics. So there was a lot of mailing, and he sent me schematics, and I sent some schematics back to him, and we discussed what to do, because he also used a stereo system, and I had to put a lot of transformers so that he could use long cables in big stages. So it was very special.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was. I also worked with Hammerfall, both guitarists, both Pontus and Oscar in Hammerfall. So they both have GVM Marshalls modified.
So what kind of mod have they on?
I call all the mods that I do on most of models from different brands. I call the standard mod, and that depends on what I have from the start originally. So I use the original circuit, but I try to get the most out of it. I maybe change at 40-50 places, change components, values, circuit lineup, amplification stages in different orders, and so on, to get the most out of the circuit. But that's the standard mod that I did on the GVM Marshalls. So, but this standard mod sounds very much like my Eternal Classic or my Mark 7 mod, because it's my ears that tells me what to do. If you see, So
can they differ? Let's say, can an Eternal Classic mod differ depending on what kind of platform you're implementing it on?
Yeah, of course, every amp has its own sound in some way, but the distortion circuit is always the same, and I try to keep it together so that it has at least the 3 first stages are the same when I build the Eternal Classic, and then it comes the effects loop, and it can be a little bit different from amp to amp. and I do some small changes to the output stage and the power stage as well, but that's very small. Yeah, so the mod has developed during these 40 years very much, and my ears has changed too, as everybody else.
Yeah.
You have different tastes of sound.
And when was the first time that when at what year was kind of had the evolution reached to the eternal classic and standard mod, so to speak, or did you come up with that already in the mid 80s, or has it?
No, it has all developed. I started eternal classic by 2013, I think.
Yeah.
The first, and then I put the same distortion stage in the Mark 7 4-channel by 2017, I think. Before I did this, I used a Class A preamp distortion stage as an amp in an amp, so to speak. A small preamp tube with a transformer and a load box and everything to get the sound of a big amp in the preamp section.
Okay, so a transformer also in the...
Yeah, and a load box.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's what I used from 1992 to 2017, about that. Then I thought the Eternal Classic sound was so good, and I had so many questions from clients, so I put that in the 4-channel mod as well, and that was the start of the Mark 7 now. And that changed the sound a lot, of course, but I think it was for the better. So,
and Mark 7 is, because I called it Eternal Classic.
It was some kind of the right way to explain it, because I just say the Mark 7. That's the 4-channel, but it has the same distortion stage and about the same sound as the Eternal Classic.
Yeah.
But what I call the Eternal Classic is mainly a 1 or 2-channel simple mod to a standard Marshall or a clone of a Marshall, just to get the preamp sound much better. And then I also use the double the stereo gain controls to get what I call a super gain control. So you can, it happens twice as fast when you turn it up.
Yeah.
So you have a very clean, good sound at 3, and then a crunch sound at 5, and then the gain comes very fast up to 10. So you have a really high gain sound at 10.
Yeah, cool.
So you can use either channel for clean or for crunch or for high gain. So they have a slightly different pre-shape sound if you have a 2-channel. But you can use either or to anything. That's my philosophy, to have a lot of sweet spots, so you can dial in almost anything and still have a good sound with a special character, but not a bad sound or a sound that you never can use. That's no idea, I think, to have controls that go over the edge and you can use it. So these I always do a gain control that goes from a slightly flat pre-shape, little bass cut off for clean, and then you turn it up, and the filters is different. There's more amplification, of course, when you turn up the gain, but also a different color in the filters.
Yeah.
So you get more gain the more you turn it up, and then at high gain you have a very distinctive Marshall nose, with a tight bass and very much cut in the bass now. So I think then you can use it anywhere. Many of the amp manufacturers make a gain control that you can use at one position, but not lower and not higher, because
then it should
don't
be.
sound.
Then it should just be built in.
Yeah.
Hardwired.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. So, and I think it scares guitarists away when you have amps that can be set to sound bad, because once you hear that bad sound, you can't get it out of your head.
No,
then that's going to
true.
represent that amp.
That's true. Yeah.
So you mentioned Richie Blackmore, an early inspiration.
Yeah.
His early 70s tone.
Yeah, that was my first sound shock. When I was 16, I heard the Made in Japan album, and I was completely taken by the sound and the playing and the improvisations and the drummer and the groove and everything. I was completely downed by that. So,
do you think he used Marshall Bager or Vox AC30 on that one?
On the Made in Japan, I guess he used his 200 waters majors. Yeah. But the Machine Head, of course, I listened to that one. Then, when I heard the live album, I listened to the studio album, of course. And as far as I know, he used the Vox amps.
Yeah, I
on the
think
Machine
so.
Head. Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah. There is some debate about that. But I think it's AC32.
Yeah. I think you can see pictures of it. From the hotel where they.
Yeah, I think, but I don't know if that was Rogers AC30. That's what I read, but maybe he used that one through some of the Marshall cabinets, because it sure sounds like 412.
Yeah,
at least I think.
Yeah, it's a big sound.
Yeah.
I don't know really, but of course Richie has his fingers and it's his own tone.
Yeah, a lot comes from them.
Yeah. And earlier of course, I heard Hendrix in the late 60s and Clapton, so they were inspiring as well. They used Marshalls, all of them. So I really wondered, well, it must be the Marshall amps. And then later on there were Van Halen and of course Slash and other guitarists using Marshalls, and it's kind of they have something in common, I think. Yeah, they have the typical Marshall nose filtered sound, and so that's where my ears are even now. Somewhere I'm into that kind of old rock sound, and then I also work with metal. Really death metal guitarists, and that's not the same sound, so it's a bit hard for me to create that typical tone, but I try to. I have a metal switch on the Mark 7, so you can push it and get some kind of more of a scoped sound, and another kind of attack, which is more like trebly and like splashing water or something like that when you touch the string. It's not it's a softer attack with more high treble in the metal kind of attack that I try to create.
Interesting, because I tried the Mark 7. I was impressed by the fact that you have the Clapton Hendrix, the Jimmy Page tone. And then when you turn up the gain, you seamlessly go into Van Halen and Jake Lee. But you say when you should go to kind of more modern, like Meshuggah or really aggressive.
Yeah, that's a kind of different sound. Because I had Fredrik from Meshuggah. He visited me. And that was kind of an experience for me. Really, he came to me to ask for a new sound on his new album. That was several years ago, I showed him one of my Marshalls, but that was the classic Marshall sound that I used to modify, and then I could see that he wasn't so impressed, so so he showed me his rectifier the old 2-channel rectifier from the 90s, and his little TC preamp, and his 8-string guitar, you know,
brutal.
like I couldn't sleep that night. No, because it was a kind of very awakening. This is the metal sound. I thought it was very explosive and so it was. You couldn't hear the tone. It was just like
but in a good way.
Sound, you know. Yeah,
in a very good way.
Very explosive.
Yeah.
And that was not my kind of sound. Not by that time. But I learned a lot from him. So it was the opposite way. He came to me to learn from me, maybe, or I don't know. But I learned a lot from him and what kind of sound I should make for a metal. For the metal switch.
Yeah.
So I tried to do that. Yeah.
Cool. We should do another video where we look at the amp and because when I tweak an amp, I kind of just do things randomly.
Yeah.
It would be more interesting
to go deeper.
You explain how you have reasoned behind. There are probably holes that I haven't covered.
Yeah. Of course. I love to do that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're very.
We spoke earlier, you and I, about you mentioned 10 characteristics that
right.
you often think is.
Yeah, that's my idea of a guitar sound. It's there are so many thousands of different sounds, very good sounds, but I think there are about 10 characters that every guitarist want to nail in their sound. No matter what kind of music, if you play blues or jazz or I mean this overdrive sound when I talk about this overdrive sounds, they have to have these characters, and that's what I think is the string separation. It's a fast attack, it's the kind of breathing, slightly compressed, very, you know, it should sound like the amp is heavily breathing when you play it. That's a good character, and it's what more? High dynamics, of course. You want to have a good guitar roll off when you play a little bit softer or roll off your volume. To make it clean up, nice, to be crisp and clear when you roll off. That's a good character, and there are some more.
So sustain, for instance.
Sustain. Yeah, that's one thing. You can have a good sustain even in a not overdriven sound. In a clean sound, you can feel that you are helped without compressors. That you have a feel that the string is singing longer in some amps, and that's what I like. That's a good character for a clean sound. That's right. There are some more characters, but they should be there if it's a good sound, I think.
Are there any fundamental trade-offs between those that you when you kind of tweak a sound so you get more of one of them? Does that
no, I don't think. I think they work together.
Yeah.
Because if you have one of them, you may have two more.
Yeah.
Free, so to speak. So they are all together. High dynamics, for example, is often goes together with a good guitar roll-off. So when you turn it up, if you set the amp in a high gain position, and you turn off the guitar volume to clean or almost clean, you have a very crisp, clear, and singing clean. In the best case, and when you turn it up, it gets thicker, heavier, more growling. Most of the distortion is not in the higher trebly end. it's in the lower mid, so you get a more roaring sound when you turn up, so you get more gain.
Yeah,
that's better. So thick when you at high gain, thick and heavy, and when you turn down, crisp and clear and light.
Yeah,
yeah. That's a good character, and that makes also good dynamics and a good punch.
Many people use what's it called? Fuzz pedals to have that, to get that crispiness when you turn it down. Mm-hmm. Is that some connection there, or is it?
I can't tell you because I'm not so into fuzz pedals, but maybe they have some. Maybe some of them have this character. I don't know really. My experience of fuzz pedals is that they are too muddy in the bass, but that's the sound you want at the same time from a fuzz pedal.
It's an effect more than an enhancement.
Yeah, that's right.
You spoke about breathing of the amp. When I played the Mark 7, it really, although I played at, I actually when I demoed the Mark 7, it was at quite a pleasant volume. But you still nailed it. Still felt like something that really had to work to put out the.
Yeah, that's the impression I like to create. That you have, even if you play low volume, you have the feeling that the sound is working very heavy and hard. Yeah, that's the best kind of sound, because if you have that good quality at low volumes, then you get a really explosive roar when you turn it up.
Yeah.
So you get, you know what happens when you turn the volume up and you have a good sound. That's that's really get my
that's what we're in it for.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's right.
Well, here on the channel, I often use greenbacks when I demonstrate amps. I will also use a little bit more seldom, but JPL 65 as well. What speakers do you usually use with your amps?
In my workshop, I have a Marshall 412 with greenbacks 25. They are from the 90s, so I think they are UK made.
Yeah.
And they have run for hours and hours, so they are well played as well. And it's a good sound. It's a good balanced sound, because it's very important that I get a balanced tone, because people use different speakers and it has to work with any kind. So and that's the speaker I've used for 30 years now, so I can't switch now. I would be lost if I have changed speakers, I think.
And the 90s greenbacks are actually
you like them?
Very good.
Yeah.
I think the ones I've tried have sound quite different from the ones that they have today.
I've heard the new ones, but there was something I didn't like in the very colored in the treble region.
They actually, I heard they moved the production back to UK.
I have listened to some clips of the new UK made. And they are very. I really like them because they have this mid-range honk in them, the very special sound that no other speaker have.
Yeah, I spoke to Daniel Forsberg had done a shoot
right.
those.
You're right. I heard that too. Yeah.
In a studio here in Western Sweden actually, and I was really impressed by those results. So we should probably include that here on the channel.
There are some more. I'm mostly into Celestion 12s.
Yeah.
And there are the greenbacks are very good. The V-type I like. It's a bit soft maybe, but very nice to listen to. And there are some more. The 12H30 is a good speaker. And and the blue Alnico, of course, and the gold Alnico. Yeah. That's the best from Celestion, I think. little bit different characters. It can be that if you use a very good G1225 greenback in a 112 open back, it's not working that good at high volumes because it's too loose in the bass, I think. Just in a combo, maybe not that good. It's better in a 412 or closed speaker. That's my opinion.
Yes, 65s and 80s has a firmer.
Yeah, and the greenback, the creamback. Sorry, the creambacks are very good as 112.
So they kind of sound like they kind of have the sound reminiscent of an entire 4x12.
Right.
From only one speaker. And actually, they a couple of years ago, Celestion released a 15-inch speaker called the fullback. That also sounds like kind of like a 4x12, just from one speaker. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very special. It's hard to compare speakers or any sound if I am sitting with an amp and trying different components, different values. It's very easy to fool yourself. I have done that so many times, hundreds of times. And working a whole day and thinking I've done the best so far, but the next day it's worth nothing.
Yeah, there are so many factors. For instance, the sequence you do things in. If you listen to one sound and then you tweak it. And it sounds a bit different afterwards. Then the sound you heard before is going to determine whether it sounds good or not. But if you come back and listen to another sound and then take this sound,
right.
But it's in like that in songs as well. So it's I think you can fit almost any speaker and any tone in a song as long as it's preceded and succeeded by stuff that kind of flatters it.
Right. And one of the things I have done so many times is that I don't compare with the same volume. I mean the same volume for my ears. So I listen to A and I listen to B, and B is slightly higher in volume. I always choose B. No matter if the A is better. So it's so easy to fool yourself if you switch tubes or anything. Just by volume you go wrong.
And compression. I mean when I mix my videos, I put things after one another, and then I can see I compare two things, and they don't have the same compression, so there are more spikes on one. Should I? What should I normalize it against? The mean level or the top?
It's no right way to do it.
Determine what. So
it's so hard to be scientific.
You need to listen to many different videos, actually, and many different players and so on to get an opinion. And even then it's going to be kind of a very fluctuating opinion.
From day to day you have a different mood.
But it's part of the beauty. Also, it's always a surprise.
And you never reach the goal.
Oh, then you're doomed. Then it's over.
Right.
Another really interesting area is the concept of power amp or power tube distortion. I must confess, I know too little about that.
So I know just a little too.
But probably so much more than I do. So, but can you, because there are varying opinions, also from very knowledgeable people. So can you guide us a bit?
Yeah, maybe I can. It's I think when you say a tube sound, there are not so many manufacturers that really know or is sure about what a tube sound is, and especially when you go to an overdrive tube sound, there is so much interconnection, or how do you say, the tubes and the output transformer and the speakers, they all work together and they send different signals to each other all the time. So you can't pick the world's best output transformer, because it depends on what tubes you use and what speaker you use to that transformer and what voltages there are, and so they all work. It's very complex.
Yeah.
It's hard. Maybe some computer and 1,000 measurement points could decide what is good and what is a tube sound really. I don't know, but I one period I tried every output transformer I could get my hands on, and I measured different characteristics and values, and wrote them down and tried to see what makes this output transformer sound better than this one and so on. But I did that with maybe 200 transformers.
Wow.
And there was no conclusion.
No?
No. I couldn't see any pattern.
Have you documented that?
Yeah, I still have them.
Yeah?
Not so clear, but I can read them. Yeah.
But was it transformers like Drake and
all of them. Because I have done repairs on tube amps for 40 years. So if there was an amp, very good sound in this amp, I disconnected the transformer and did some measurements with signals and with my instruments, and wrote them down.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see any pattern, really.
But if you compare, let's say you compare a new output transformer to one in the late 60s.
Yeah, you can hear differences, but it's very hard to statically measure what happens. If I could measure if I could build a landscape with a computer, maybe with a good program over everything that happens dynamically. Maybe I could see some more, but statically it's hopeless, I think, to see what is a good transformer and what is not. But you can hear big differences.
Yeah.
But there's no interconnection between the sound and the measurements.
No.
I couldn't see that. So lately I always do this. I put this filter on. What's it called now?
Sobel filter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Daniel told me. You had shown him.
Yeah, right. I have built a small box with a cable that I can connect to the output tube, so I can easily change the values of the Sobel filter. So I dial in at different values, because I come to very different values of the Sobel filter for different amps.
Yeah.
Because they have a very different sound. For example, the Marshall GVM has a very high peak in the output transformer, a resonance at 5 kilohertz, about there.
Yeah.
And it sounds very metalish if you haven't. But if you put a Sobel filter on with the right value, you can make it sound like a plexi output transformer. For example. It's very simple, I think, and it very much comes to this resonance, this high resonance. It's different from different transformers. That's my opinion. And the plexi, the old plexi transformer has this no resonance at all, or maybe slightly a treble roll off like that. That's what I hear anyway. So I don't have to put any Sobel filter on the plexi transformers, because that's what I like, a slightly rounded top end. It's very nice to your ears, and it's easy to record when you have that sound.
Do you think it's some people say that old transformers is also a question of the quality in the materials, so with the manufacturing methods for materials has improved so much, so it's kind of too clean,
too good. I think that goes for all the developments in components. because you can. I think the many of the 50s and the 60s amps were set up with military stuff, and they just took what was available in the box that day.
Yeah.
Or it could be different from day to day.
Yeah.
So and there's nothing special. There is not components that are designed to sound very good or so. No, it's just any component. We have this in store today, so we use it. That's the idea. I think.
Yeah, I think it's the same with speakers also. The highly regarded Pulsonic cone is. I bet they just used papers from the process industry that was available there.
Yeah, and cheap and so on. Yeah,
and probably full of imperfection.
Yeah. And different from batch to batch.
Yeah. No, but they were at least when it comes to sonic qualities, they were consistent.
Oh yeah.
But it's if you measure the sound, it is probably not optimal in any way.
No, that's true. That's true. I changed an output transformer in a Vox AC30 from the 60s once. It was broken, so I changed it, and it was a completely different amp with a new transformer in.
Yeah.
So it was at least a high 8 to 9 dB more in the treble region.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was completely different, and I think what they did at that time when they designed amps that they had many hours listening and trying and changing and trying and listening again, and then they come to a setup that was very good to play and very good to listen to, and that's why they often sound better. And today they do very many constructions on the board, or you know, they do schematics on the computer, and then they just set it up, because this is what we usually do, and we change a little bit here and a little bit there, and then we go for production.
Yeah, if there is a strong enough business case for the current scenario, there is no. Yeah. It's not motivated to put that many man hours.
No.
But
that's right.
That's very unfortunate.
Yeah, of course, for sound, for people who like the good sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's. Back then, it's often a good combination of weaknesses, I think, that makes a good sound. If you have a slightly bad speaker that is doesn't have this straight curves or anything, and you compensate that with special components in the amp or a special output transformer to compensate for these weaknesses, and then together you have several weaknesses compare to working together, and you comes out with a good sound.
Yeah, two wrongs equals a right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I'm really glad you thought there's some guys starting rehearsal over there.
Okay.
I'm super glad we could do this, Tommy.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I would really like to if we could make have some jam session because I would love it if you could tweak the amp and discuss the features while I play it.
Yeah. Okay.
So that would be a great part too.
Yeah. We can dig deeper.
Yeah. I'd love that.
Of course.
All right.
Let's do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you. Yeah. Yeah.